Please that kindly be seated. हम अनुरोध करते हैं भक्तों से जो कृपया खड़े हैं कृपया बैठ जाइए। विशेष रूप से जो भगवान के सामने दर्शन ले रहे हैं, we request kindly that please give some space so that devotees can sit, and we are going to start Bhagavad Gita class by His Grace Mukund Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So this Bhagavad Gita class is being conducted every Sunday from 7:30. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे नीताय गौर हरि बोल नीताय गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we welcome all of you for this evening discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on the battlefield setting of the Mahabharat war, which happened in a place called Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is a historical place, not a mythological place. It is still existing. Dwarka is still existing. Mathura is still existing. Although these places are still existing, but the event that happened there, we call it mythology, as if it never happened. Whether Mahabharata happened, whether the Pandava characters really existed, Duryodhan and the Kauravas and the Pandavas, are they real characters who existed in the past? Or are they symbolic figures who represent certain things? So if Kurukshetra is a historical place, why can't the characters be historical? Why they have to be imaginary or symbolic? So this is the setting. The war is happening about to begin between the two family groups, same family group, two sets of brothers, sons of Pandu and sons of Dhritarashtra. Although originally both are Kauravas, descending from the ancestor Kuru, but eventually the sons of Dhritarashtra came to be known as Kauravas, and sons of Pandu came to be known as Pandavas. So therefore the war is said to be happening between the Pandavas and Kauravas. Actually Pandavas are also Kauravas, but to distinguish the two parties, they are called like this. So and Arjuna is, the war is about to happen, the shanks are blown, the conch shells are blown. That's when the Gita is spoken. So what we hear in the Gita is actually a discussion between Sanjay and Dhritarashtra first. There is a main conversation, Sanjay and Dhritarashtra. And then Sanjay is able to see what's happening on the battlefield. So before the war happened, Vyasadeva, who is the compiler and author of all the Vedic literatures, he came to Hastinapur and tried to negotiate peace. Why do you want the war? He was telling Dhritarashtra. Right? So both are brothers and both have equal rights over the kingdom. Try your best. Avoid the war, unnecessary killing of so many millions of people. Just share the property and both can live happily. So many people try to advise, but then no one could help. Even Krishna tried to go as a peace messenger and try to avoid the war, but somehow it didn't happen. It didn't work out. And finally, the only solution was war. If nothing works, then war. Fight it out. Whoever wins, they become the king. So when the date was fixed, location was fixed, so Vyasadeva came to Dhritarashtra and said, if you want, I can bless you see what is happening on the battlefield. So sitting here, although you are blind and you're sitting here, but sitting here you can have a Doordarshan from a distance. The distance between Hastinapur, which is New Delhi, current New Delhi, and Kurukshetra, few hundred kilometers, right? Sitting here you can watch. So Dhritarashtra thought about it and he said, no, I don't want to see. All my life I could never see my sons because I was blind. Now I don't want to see them getting killed. So he was quite confident his sons are going to get killed. And they are going to lose the war. But still, he had hope. Maybe they will win. So he said, I don't want this vision. But you can give this vision to my secretary. Who is that? Sanjay. So Sanjay is my secretary, my assistant. So let him watch everything. And he will describe everything to me. That way I will come to know what's happening every day. How is the war progressing and who is winning, who is losing, who is getting killed, who is gaining the upper hand. Let him describe to me and I will hear. So in this way, Vyasadeva gave that Divya Drishti to Sanjay. And Sanjay could see everything. So even in the Gita, in the 11th chapter, when Krishna showed the Vishwarup, the universal form, remember that? Arjun's requested Krishna, let me see the Vishwarup, how you are controlling the entire universe and how you are all pervading and everything is under your control. I want to see that form. So Krishna said, you cannot see that form with your current naked eyes. This requires special vision. Divyam dadami te chakshu pashyame yogamaishwaram. Only when I give you divya chakshu, divine eyes, then you can see. So I will give you. Have it. Take this divine vision and look at this huge form. So certain things, everything that is existing in the universe, we cannot see. But there are so many waves here, right? In the air. We have electromagnetic rays and all the video signals and audio signals, mobile signals. We can't see them. But do we say, मुझे दिख नहीं रहा है तो है ही नहीं वो? ऐसा तो नहीं बोलते ना हम लोग. They exist. Like TV signals, for example. We can't see them. If you have a proper device, the television set, and if you tune in to the right signal, then you can see a movie and this serial and this cricket match and football match. Whatever is happening all over the world, you can see now. Because the device is there and the device is tuned in to the right channel. And then the device catches the signal and then you see. Right? Sometimes you go to movie theaters and then they give you the 3D glasses, 3D movies, which you cannot enjoy that movie with ordinary eyes. You need special Divya Chakshu. Not Divya Chakshu, 3D Chakshu. And then you see the movie. Usi prakar, similarly, if you want to see this universal form, ordinary eyes cannot see. When Krishna is blessing, then Arjuna is able to see. So therefore we need to acknowledge that there are many things in the universe which are beyond our regular access, regular vision. And to simply reject them as non-existent is foolishness. मैंने तो भगवान को देखा ही नहीं. किसने देखा है? Who has seen God? Who has seen everything else that is described in the Puranas? No one has seen. I don't believe. If you don't believe just because you cannot see, That is foolishness. No one has seen? How do you say no one has seen? When Krishna was present in the planet 5,000 years ago, so many people saw. Right? Arjun saw Lord Shiva, Shivji, and Brahma, Indra, Surya. All these people existed when Mahabharata was happening. They saw. Now we challenge, do they really exist? Does it really exist? So we are so disconnected from that frequency of tuning in that we cannot understand their existence at all. And then we disbelieve. Science has not proved their existence. Until we prove it scientifically with our experiments in the laboratory, then I will believe. So by default, nothing exists according to modern science until it is proved. Whereas when it comes to scriptural statements, we should have ulta frequency. By default, everything is true until it is proved false. When it is coming to scriptural statements, not the other way. So in this way, Sanjay got the eyes to see the universal form. And then he could describe everything that was happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And every day he would give news. So many sons killed, this 25 sons killed, 30 sons killed, and this warrior got killed, and this people, how many people died, all these events he was describing. So throughout the Gita, there are 700 shlokas in the Gita. Out of that 700, the first verse was spoken by Dhritarashtra. That is the first and the last. Dhritarashtra spoke only one verse, 1.1. Then we have Sanjay speaking. Sanjay speaks in first chapter, then he speaks in 11th chapter, he speaks in 18th chapter. So total he speaks 41 verses. Then Arjun speaks several times. Almost every chapter Arjun asks a question, except few chapters here and there where Krishna directly speaks. So Arjun's verses total into 84 verses. Arjun's questions, Arjun's observations, Arjun's request, Arjun's declarations, सब मिला के 84. तो कितना हुआ? 84 plus 1 plus 41. 120? How many is remaining? 574. That's the number of verses that Krishna spoke. So major chunk is Krishna's speech. So in this way the Gita is described. So except the first chapter, in every chapter Krishna is the main speaker. Therefore it is called Bhagavad Gita. Bhagwan ki Geet. Krishna himself is speaking. Which other religion, which other part of the world has this privilege? God directly speaking. Only we have, right? One book where God is speaking directly. Every other book, every other scripture you may find all over the world, some other people are speaking, which is also equally valid, equally respectable, valuable. But here we have one in our land of India, directly God is speaking. God's words recorded live. And that we have access to read and study. So therefore the Bhagavad Gita is considered a special book. Very popular, although 5,000 years old, still it is read, appreciated, applied, continue to research upon. So that's the special position of the Gita. So in this war, Mahabharata war, there were all kinds of warriors fighting. There were 5 generations of warriors. So we have Arjun, Duryodhan, Pandavas, Kauravas, that is like the middle generation. One generation above was Bhishma. नहीं, उसके पहले भी एक है. Bhishma is Pitama. 2 generation. There are people like Dronacharya and all, kind of 1 generation above. And there are fathers of these warriors. They were also fighting. And then Bhishma is a grandfather, 2 generations before. Then there are sons, Arjun's and Duryodhan's sons. They are also fighting, like Abhimanyu. And in some cases, they are sons also. So Arjun is like grandfather to some people. So 5 generations of warriors in the same battle on both sides. So in those days, people used to live for so long. 100, 200, 300 years was not uncommon. So therefore, this war was going to affect all classes of people. That was one concern Arjun had raised. If this war happens and so many people die, who are the people who will maintain the tradition, religious traditions, customs? Someone has to continue the tradition. Like for example, Pindadan. Who will do the Pindadan if everyone gets killed? Right? If you don't do that Pindadan and Shraddha ceremony, then people who have died, they will suffer. Right? We every year do, 1 year Shraddha ceremony, Tithi ke din. That is why, why do we do that? Because people who have departed, they get some relief from their reactions. So when every year that ceremony is performed, they get some relief. So Arjun's concern was, who will do that if everyone dies? And then our Krishna answers in a different manner. So 5 generations of people fighting the war. And here is Dhritarashtra speaking the first verse. What does he say? Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakuruvata sanjaya. So Dharma kshetre, Kurukshetra. So Kurukshetra is described as a Dharma kshetra. What is Dharma kshetra? Place where Dharma is done, Dharma is performed, Dharmic activities are performed. So Kurukshetra is famous as a place for where all kinds of yajna, sacrifices were performed in the earlier ages. And all the sages would come together, they would perform Ashwamedha sacrifice and various other sacrifices. And so Parashuram, Lord Parashuram also is said to have come there and performed his activities there. So therefore it is considered a holy place, Dharma Kshetra. And most importantly, Gita was spoken. Eventually Gita was spoken there. That made Kurukshetra even more famous. But traditionally, Kurukshetra is considered a very holy place. So Dhritarashtra is asking, in this Dharma Kshetra known as Kurukshetra, Samaveta Yuyutsavaha, all these warriors have assembled. Samaveta, Yuyutsavaha. Yuyutsu means someone who is eager to fight. Yuyutsavaha, all these people have assembled. And Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, my sons, Mamakaha, Pandavaschaiva, also the sons of Pandu. What did they do? So now this question is a little strange. Why is Dhritarashtra asking this question? Right? Just like suppose you say, last Sunday, my friends and those friends, we all went to a restaurant and sat there. Someone asked, then what did you do? Then we ordered food and ate, obviously. Restaurant में तो खाएंगे ही ना, और कुछ करने थोड़ी जाएंगे हम लोग. So that is natural. If you go to a restaurant, they are going to eat. If you go to a cricket ground, you are going to play cricket. If you go to some other place, you will do that activity. That's understood. So if you come to a battlefield, what are you going to do? You're not going to eat food. You're going to fight a war, right? So therefore, Dhritarashtra's question is a little odd. Obviously, they are going to fight. Then why is Dhritarashtra asking this question? What did they do? So here Dhritarashtra's mentality comes out. First of all, he's saying Mamaka and Pandavas. Ideally even Pandavas are Mamaka only for him. Right? He should not discriminate my sons and their sons. The Pandavas, they lost their father in their childhood. Pandu died quite early. And the 5 Pandavas were small children. And then they came to Hastinapur because they had no father. So ideally, Dhritarashtra should have raised the 5 Pandavas as their own sons. He was the father's elder son, elder brother. So he should have protected them. But instead, what did he do? Not only he didn't protect them, he was planning so many attempts to kill them and banish them. So it is natural to have affection for one's own sons and not have so much affection for someone else's sons. That is natural. But to have affection for one's own sons and hate someone else's son, that is unnatural. Right? Especially your family circle only. So that's what Dhritarashtra did. Not only he didn't love them, he hated them, plotted to kill them and destroy them. So that's the mistake he did. So now his mentality is coming out. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. That shows that he's attached to his sons. And he's not considering Pandavas as his own. He's seeing them as a threat. He's feeling insecure. What if they grow up nicely, they take up the kingdom, and they become the future kings? Then what will happen to my sons? And then all those insecure feelings he had. Another concern he had was the war is happening in Kurukshetra. And Kurukshetra is a Dharma Kshetra. So if it is Dharma Kshetra, then the effects of Dharma Kshetra will have some effects it will have on all the warriors. Right? So if the participants in the war are dharmic, then what will be the effect of Dharma Kshetra on the warriors? If the warriors are dharmic, then the effect will be positive for the dharmic people. And in this war between the Pandavas and Kauravas, who is dharmic and who is adharmic? Pandavas are dharmic. And Dhritarashtra was quite confident his sons have nothing to do with dharma. His sons were totally adharmic. Right? So if the place is going to have a positive impact on dharmic people, then Pandavas are likely to get the benefit. Because they are naturally dharmic. So that was Dhritarashtra's fear. Because the war is happening in Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, and Pandavas are naturally dharmic, so maybe Pandavas will come out victorious. And Dhritarashtra didn't want the Pandavas to win. Another thought he had in his mind was, my sons are adharmic, so then it will have a negative impact on my sons. They may lose the war. And then he also thought, maybe because the place is dharmic, maybe it will influence my sons. Instead of fighting the war, they may settle a peaceful negotiation. They have come to fight. But by the influence of Kurukshetra's dharmic potency, they may say, "Arey, chhod do ye sab. Let us settle peacefully." ऐसा तो नहीं हुआ ना? He's asking Sanjay indirectly. He didn't want it to happen, but did that happen? Did the influence of Kurukshetra impact my sons, and did they stop the war, or did they avoid fighting the war? And he also hoped that the Kurukshetra influence on Pandu's sons, because the Pandavas are dharmic, maybe by the influence of Kurukshetra, they may say, we don't want to fight. Did they say that? So these are thoughts going on in Dhritarashtra's mind. So he was hoping the Pandavas will avoid fighting, and the Pandavas will not get benefited by the place. So what is the outcome after they have assembled in the battlefield? Such things happen? Did they happen? So Dhritarashtra's question is actually answered in the end. The question is asked in the first verse of the first chapter. But Sanjay answers the question in the last verse of the last chapter. And what does he say? Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shrir Vijayo Bhutir Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there is Krishna and wherever there is Arjun, Tatra Shri. There itself you will find opulence, Vijayo, victory, Bhuti, all kinds of Aishwarya, and Niti, morality. So indirectly he said, your sons are not going to win. Wherever there is Krishna and Arjun, that party is going to win the war. So this question is answered in the end. So in this way, Dhritarashtra's mentality comes out. And it can happen with all of us. Because of our attachment to certain things, attachment to our position, our possessions, our relatives, we may also oftentimes act unfairly. We may become biased. Just like Dhritarashtra, he is here biased. Right? He is not equal, impartial to the Pandavas. So that way, we also get affected by our attachments. And then we may make wrong decisions. So Dhritarashtra is the king. When Duryodhana was born, he had 100 sons, right? So when the first child was born, so there were all kinds of inauspicious symptoms in the atmosphere. Jackals may bring, and inauspicious birds making their sounds, rainless clouds thundering, and all kinds of inauspicious omens. So many people advise something terrible is going to happen. And your son is taking birth now, first son. So these symptoms show that this son is going to be a very dangerous person for the society. You should not adopt him. Reject him. So they didn't say kill him. They said abandon him. Because if he stays in the family, in the palace, royal family, so you are the king, and he will get all kingly power, right? So if such an evil person stays in the palace, then as he grows up, he will misuse the power and facilities. So abandon him. So even though he is evil, but if he stays and gets raised in some other place, which is not like the king, then the damage caused will be less. So there is a nice shloka that says, for the sake of a family, you should abandon a child. To save a village, abandon a family. To save a country, abandon a village. And to save the soul, abandon the whole world. So here he is advised, Dhritarashtra is advised, don't keep this child. You have 99 other sons. Out of 100, ek ko chhod do. What is the loss? So Bhishma advised, Vidur advised to Dhritarashtra, be careful. All these symptoms are indicating this is a very destructive phenomenon. And this person, this son of yours can destroy the entire dynasty. He will be the cause of destruction for the entire dynasty. So abandon him. So Dhritarashtra heard all these warnings and he thought about it for some time. And then he called his servant and said, take the child inside. Which means he didn't abandon. He was not ready to abandon. He was so attached that he was not ready to abandon even one son. So Bhishma and Vidura looked at each other, shocked. Itna advice diya, it didn't affect only. He didn't take it seriously only. What could he do? Because ultimately Dhritarashtra was the king. So king has ultimate power. Whatever he says, that's the final thing. Bhishma and Vidura were not kings, although they had positions, but ultimate decision was taken by Dhritarashtra. So whatever he says is final. So in this way, Duryodhan continued staying in the palace, and then he started growing up, and then he saw the 5 Pandavas coming, and he saw how qualified they were, how gentle they were in their behavior, and how powerful they were. So initially few years he enjoyed being the eldest son. He enjoyed all the position, Lad, Pyar, everything he was getting. But when the 5 Pandavas came, he saw them as threats, competitors. And he couldn't tolerate. So they were so gentle. These Kauravas were very rough and rude, harsh speech, arrogant. That contrast between both the parties, both the sets of brothers was clearly visible. So all the people started loving the 5 Pandavas. Naturally, someone who is gentle, he will naturally show affection. So when Duryodhan saw they are getting all the attention, he became even more envious and angry. So in this way, the enmity between the two parties began to grow. And it continued growing, and one day, then they started planning all kinds of schemes, taking them to various programs and then trying to feed them poison. Bhima was fed poison. And then other attempts to kill them, and then the Lakshagriha happened, and then finally the gambling match. So right from childhood, Duryodhan had this envy towards the Pandavas. He couldn't tolerate their glorious behavior, activities. So here also, and Dhritarashtra was equally culprit. So someone who is having a position, if he's powerful and having a position, then the fear is he will misuse the position. But if you have a position, but if you are weak, still you can cause damage. So Dhritarashtra was weak-hearted. But because he had a position, he created more damage, despite being weak. How? He encouraged Duryodhan in his evil activities. Sometimes he may say, I am a weak person, I can't do anything. Dhritarashtra also used to say this. He would tell Krishna, he would tell others, what can I do? My sons don't listen to me, and I have no power. I know this is wrong, what they are doing is wrong. I know the war should not happen, but what can I do? And they don't listen to me. So please don't blame me for whatever is happening. So you can't say that. That's a stupid excuse. You have the power. You have the power to correct. Correct the son, correct the child. The child may be arrogant, the child may be evil, but if you have the power to say no, which you didn't do, therefore you are also contributing to the problem. So in this way, so many people advised Dhritarashtra. But then Dhritarashtra just couldn't accept the advice and apply it. Weak-heartedness. So similarly, it happens with many of us. We know certain things are wrong, certain actions are wrong, and we are supposed to say no. But because of weak-heartedness, we just succumb to the temptation. So in this way, Dhritarashtra's character comes out. And in the end, after the whole Mahabharata war ended, and all his sons got killed, right? Then who took care of him? The Pandavas took care of him. Although Dhritarashtra was the one who attempted to kill the 5 Pandavas. But in the end, the 5 Pandavas kept him in their home, took care of them, continued to respect him. Except Bhima. Bhima would sometimes taunt him and make fun of him. But Yudhishthira was always respectful. He never tried to make him feel, oh, you are the cause of all our problems. You did this to us, you did that to us. So when, in the end, Vidura had gone on a pilgrimage to all the holy places. He didn't want to participate in the war. So just before the war, he went out on pilgrimage to visit all the holy places. And he took several years to tour all the holy places in the country. And after several years, he met Maitreya Rishi. He had a nice discussion with him, a spiritual discussion. He met Krishna also, Uddhava also. And Krishna had given him a special message to Vidura. So Vidura was very happy. Krishna remembered me before leaving the planet. And finally, after discussing with Maitreya, spending nice discussions, finally he came back to Hastinapur, hoping that somehow I will try to save my brother Dhritarashtra. So he had heard the news that the war happened and all the people were killed, all the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra were killed, and Yudhishthira became the emperor. All this news he got. So he thought, let me make my one last attempt to save Dhritarashtra. All these years I tried to advise him so that he doesn't commit the mistake. But he never listened to me. Now one last attempt I will make. Now he has become old man. Pehle se hi blind hai. And now he didn't have spiritual vision also. Because he is my dear brother, let me try once more. So he goes back to Hastinapur, not to enjoy the royal luxuries there, just to advise Dhritarashtra. So he goes there and then everyone welcomes him. The 5 Pandavas welcome him. Oh, my dear uncle, our uncle, you have come back after a long time. We missed you so much. Where were you? And then he started inquiring his whereabouts. And then Vidura described everything. I met this and I met these people. And finally he went to Dhritarashtra's quarters. And then they had a discussion. Long discussion. And then he started speaking very heavily to Dhritarashtra. My dear brother, do you realize what kind of life you are living? You are living the life of a dog. You are living the same house of those people whom you tried to kill. Don't you feel shame? You tried to kill these people so many times. But now they are taking care of you. You should feel some regret, some remorse. And look at your condition. You don't have eyes in the beginning itself. Your throat is choked up. You're coughing all the time. You're about to die. Your old age has taken over you. And you may die any time. And you are still attached to your royal luxuries and position. You still think you are the king. You are still thinking, I am giving orders and people are following me. It's all illusion. Just because Yudhishthira is respecting you doesn't mean you are the controller. So come out of the illusion that you are the king. You are no longer the king. And you have no position here. Now is the time you should take to spiritual life. Ideally, one should take the spiritual life in young age, childhood. Prahlad Maharaj says, Kaumara acharet. At the age of 5, one should take to spiritual life seriously. Not when one is too old, when you have nothing to do, when you are unable to do anything. Most people think like that, right? When young people especially take to Krishna consciousness, many parents and other people are, why are you doing now? ये तो मजा करने का समय है. बूढ़ापे में ये सब करना चाहिए, धर्म वर्म भगवान भगवान. So people have this misconception that spiritual life means old age activity. Now is the time to enjoy. So similarly, Dhritarashtra was kind of that person. He never took to spiritual life seriously. So Vidur is saying, at least now you get rid of your attachments and take to spiritual life. In this way, he speaks heavily. And finally, Dhritarashtra realizes that what he's speaking is true. And taking Vidura's instruction seriously, he said, okay, I will follow you. Do you tell me what to do? Vidur says, leave the home immediately. But Dhritarashtra says, maybe tomorrow, maybe 1 or 2 days, I'll get ready, pack my bags. And now, now you should leave. Right now. So Dhritarashtra was not prepared, but somehow by Vidura's association, he developed the determination, the courage. Immediately they left. Without informing anyone, without telling anyone, even without telling Sanjay, who was like his close secretary for so many years, he didn't even tell Sanjay. So Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Vidur left the place. Left the place to go to the forest. So that's the Varnashram system, where first initial few years a person lives like a student, brahmacharya, ashram. Then at the right age, one gets into family, gets married and enters into family life. Then stays in family, raises children, or takes care of all family, social responsibilities. Then after a certain age, vanaprastha, you start retiring. So 25 years, say student life, 25 to 50, grihastha ashram, family life. At 50, one is expected to start thinking about the future. Not that till the end of our life we remain attached to my job and my business and my family and my position in society, my social contacts, this and that. At 50, the scriptures advise one should start winding up, begin the wind-up process. So gradually start retiring, start handing over to the next generation. So by the time 50 is the age, the sons and daughters would have grown up, right? Our children would have grown up. Start handing over them. Your responsibility. Don't hold on to these things till the end. So 50, then 60, 70. Gradually you start retiring and start spending more time in spiritual activities, visiting holy places, studying scripture, meditation, prayer. Start spending time in this. Because anytime one can die. And then one at the age of 70, 75, 3/4 of your life has gone. Last quarter, one should give up home completely. That's what scriptures advise. Sannyas ashram. Where there is no connection with family and one is dedicating his life for the welfare of the world, traveling and preaching and trying to enlighten people about the importance of spiritual life. Someone has to take that process. So when you're at home, you can't do that. And you have other responsibilities. So every ashram has its own responsibilities. Student has his own responsibility. Family man has responsibility. Sannyasi has his responsibility. So that's what scriptures advise. And you have so many examples. Here Dhritarashtra is doing. In the Bhagavatam you will find Bharat Maharaj doing that. Prithu doing. Kardama Muni doing. Swayambhu Manu doing. So all these great kings, although they had the best of positions, They were the emperors of the planet. But at the right age, they will take responsibility of kingdom, rule the king. At the right age, they will give up the kingdom. Even the Pandavas, at the right age, when they heard that Krishna has left, although they were young, still they said, enough. Enough of ruling. And now we'll hand over the kingdom to Parikshit, who has now grown up, matured. Not that they remained enjoying the facilities. Similarly, Parikshit also gave up the kingdom. When he got the news that I'm going to die in 7 days and 7 nights, he didn't try to counteract the curse. Arey, kuch to karke, something I'll do, some puja vidhi I'll do, and then somehow make sure I don't die. He was young. But then he said, enough. His son, Janamejaya, was installed as the king. Then he left. He spent all his 7 days hearing from Shukadeva Goswami the message of the Bhagavatam. And that's how he prepared for death. So ultimately, every stage of life is meant for preparing for death, the final exam. So all these kings are demonstrating that example. And here we find Dhritarashtra also. He is setting that example by the association of Vidur. He got that lesson and he said that, he did that. So although throughout his life he didn't live ideally, but at least at the end of his life, he did the right thing. So in this way we see, this is the first verse of the Gita, and the coming weeks we will discuss the other later verses. So we'll stop here, and anyone has any question or comment, we can take one. Before we end, we would like to announce about the Gita course that is coming up on February 10, 11, 12. So if anyone is interested, they want to enroll for it, you can contact that Prabhu sitting there. So it's a nice course. You get a nice overview of the whole Gita, the main concepts of the Gita, and just get a gist of the whole book. Then when you study the Gita systematically, chapter by chapter, then it will be easy to understand. Okay, so anyone has any? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Very, very deeply explained issues of the responsibility, morality, and of Dhritarashtra's evil this thing. But he was the king. But the Maharani Gandhari also had the responsibility of equally enlightening her 100 sons. But that is not forthcome in this thing. So it is amounting to misuse, because she also misused the power. So in our day-to-day life, and the common man, this also happens. The responsibility of mothers also plays a vital role. Can you throw some little more light on? Thank you.
Yeah, that is true. Mothers or fathers both have equal responsibility to raise a child. So Gandhari also tried her best. It's not that she didn't try. She tried to instruct Duryodhan, but somehow Duryodhan was so adamant. He just didn't listen. So what can you do? The parents may be cultured and good people, but somehow the children sometimes turn out to be something else. Sometimes the other way happens. The children turn to be nice gentlemen. Parents have some other attitudes. So either way, you don't know. Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad, we had contrast, right? But then we also have Anga and who's that? Anga and Prithu. Anga was the father. Sorry, Anga and Vena, right? So Anga father was very nice gentleman, but son became a demon. And in Hiranyakashipu, his father was a demon. Prahlad was the devotee. So all kinds of combination you have. Yeah, so mothers and fathers both have equal responsibility for raising the child. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.